Well, this is shocking. The U.S. has, for the first time, agreed to diplomatic talks with Hamas. Now, that means that the Trump administration is not being hypocritical when they say to make a peace deal, you need to speak to both sides. They are doing that with Russia and Ukraine. They have never done that between Hamas and Israel until now. Will Israel take that? Israeli PM Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that Trump is the best friend that Israel has ever had in his address this week. Will Trump actually let or force Netanyahu to end this deal, or will Netanyahu continue to find ways to keep his precious war? Daniel McAdams is the co-host of the Ron Paul Liberty Report, a former senior staffer on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and he joins us today once again on Redacted. It's great to see you. What do you think of this diplomatic step forward, possibly, between Hamas and Israel?
Oh, you're talking about the reported ties, communication between the Trump administration and Hamas? Is that that came out in August?
Yes. Do you think then that the Trump administration will be able to broker a peace between Hamas if they actually are bringing Hamas to the table for the first time ever?
I mean, I think it's a great move. I think only Trump could do it because Trump is, widely seen as an extremely pro-Israel president. His cabinet, indeed, everyone in his administration that we can see is extremely pro-Israel, maybe to a fault. But so only he could do it. And what I wonder actually is if some of this didn't come out of the very long conversation on the telephone that President Trump had with Russian President Putin, because not only is it reported that these talks with Hamas have started, but there is talks that the U.S. will start talking to Iran directly with the help of Russia. Now, you can see heads exploding in Israel if this happens, if they're talking to Hamas and to Iran at the same time. It's going to be an explosion. It's going to be a nightmare for Netanyahu, I think. So I think it's fascinating. It's very, as you point out, it's very consistent because this is what he said we have to do. We have to talk to people, even if we don't necessarily like them. Another thing that's interesting, if you saw the Axios report, it's indicated in there that Israel found out about these talks by spying on the Trump administration. But they were our best friends and allies. I can't believe they would do such a thing.
We've spoken to FBI agents who've told us that, of course, and former members of the CIA that have said that no, when you have a meeting with folks from Israel, you do not do it in a building. You do it like out of a secure facility because they can't be trusted. Is basically what they told us. That we have a friendly relationship with the CIA, with Mossad, with Israel.
But he said, don't take their gifts. They give you flowers and there's a spy bug inside.
Don't ever accept a gift from them because there'll be a bug inside of it. I mean, this is the kind of people, these are your friends.
Bibi gave him a pager. That worries the hell out of me. What's in that? Forget about a bug.
Exactly. Well, overnight we saw reports, while the president was giving his speech, Netanyahu was talking about his plan for Gaza. And he basically called it, I think he called it the hell plan. Like, I have a hell plan for Gaza. Like, no one wants to be a part of that. Moving people out of the north so that they can continue massive bombing campaigns. Like, okay, where do you think the President Trump is going to come down on that?
Well, this is another example of Netanyahu thumbing his nose. I mean, he's sort of doing a Zelensky, isn't he? Because they had a deal, they were sent over, they were given a deal, they signed a deal. Phase 2 was supposed to start. Phase 2 involves the complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza and the release of the rest of the hostages. So Netanyahu is now desperate to delay Phase 2 from starting. He's asked for, I think, a 45-day pause in Phase 2, what have you, because he knows that the right wing in Israel is going to be coming for his rear end if he follows through with the deal. But then on the other side, the U.S. is going to be coming for him if he thumbs his nose at the deal, just like we're doing with Zelensky with the stupid mineral deal. So he really is between a rock and a hard place on this. I don't know where he goes. And if he decides to start bombing northern Gaza, what the hell is left to bomb? What's he going to bomb? The stuff he's already bombed? Doesn't make any sense.
Right. One of the things that I wonder is, could the U.S. get Israel to the table on a permanent truce when right now the United States is totally fine with their siege on foreign aid? No aid can get into Gaza, and we're allowing them to stop that. We sent them weapons. earlier in this week. Marco Rubio announced that on the Secretary of State page. So would the Trump administration actually leverage weapons shipments to Israel the way we're doing with Ukraine? That seems bonkers to think that we would ever play tough in that regard with Israel.
Yeah, it would be definitely hard to see, and it would be difficult for Trump to get it through. But on the other hand, I think only Trump could get it through. And I hate to be sanguine about the whole thing, but Trump could say, look, I am the best friend of Israel. He says it over and over again, but I want to stop this damn war, like he's done with Ukraine. I want to stop the killing. I don't know that he could do it, but I wonder if he's the only person right now who could do it.
And I have it on good authority that President Trump is not a fan of Benjamin Netanyahu. Like, he is not, I'm sure maybe you've heard it similarly as well, and doesn't like to be played this way. So I think a lot of people were wondering, like, how long would this little charade of like hugging and kissing go on until rubber meets the road? So we'll have to see here. But if Trump asked for a ceasefire, and this is the plan laid out by his team, and now Netanyahu is going behind his back, spying on the Trump administration and continuing a ceasefire. I don't know.
Yeah. How's that going to work?
This is what we learned from Zelensky. Trump does not want to be made to look like a fool. He doesn't play that way. And if Netanyahu thinks he's going to do it, I think he's got another thing coming.
Yeah. I want to ask you about this. Our friend of the show, Congressman Thomas Massie. This is reported by Scott Horton. Okay, Thomas Massie has been very outspoken about the Israel lobby buying up most of the politicians in Washington, all but a few. Thomas Massie, of course, refuses to take money from AIPAC. Scott Horton reporting, Israel's lobby launches a preemptive war on Thomas Massie by James Rushmore. Republican Jewish Coalition CEO Matt Brooks told Jewish Insider if Thomas Massie chooses to enter the race for the United States Senate in Kentucky to replace Mitch McConnell, the RJC campaign budget to ensure he's defeated will be unlimited. So in other words, Israel will spend an unlimited amount of money to stop Congressman Massie from becoming a senator of Kentucky. What do you make of that?
I think it's absolutely true. And I think they may have unlimited amounts of money. And I think it's going to be a tough battle for Thomas Massie as well, who, by the way, is on the board of the Ron Paul Institute, a good friend of ours as well. The thing about Thomas Massie is that he's a lot like Ron Paul was in Congress. He says, I don't have a problem with Israel. I vote against all foreign aid. I'm just not, I don't want to do that. And I don't want us to be controlled by any foreign country, whether it's Israel or Ukraine or anything. He's consistent across the board. Of course, they can't stand that because you have to be consistent except for one particular instance. But I think the American people, I do honestly think, guys, I think things are changing. I think the old boomers who were sitting there, Israel, I think that era is coming to an end. And that's why they want to do things like cut out TikTok and the others. I think if you look at polls, if you look at how younger people are responding, do you want to continue to keep sending military aid to Israel? The young people, it's way past 50%, including Republicans. So the tone of the country is changing. I think it would be a fascinating battle to see, Netanyahu and Massie versus the rest of the world, Massie versus AIPAC and the rest of, what have you. And so I don't know if I were Massie, I don't know if I would have the fortitude to take on the attacks that are going to come, because they're going to be massive and they're going to be extremely nasty. But it
won't be new, though, because they do fund campaigns against him and have even as a congressional representative. So he has gone against it before. What new money, what new tricks would they have? He's one of the most, I want to say, organic, some of the most organic support in the United States. So I don't know.
Well, I was just going to say that, yes, to your point, he just dealt with that in a re-election campaign. AIPAC spent a lot of money going after him, running ads all through Kentucky against him, and he won. If I'm not mistaken, I think he won in a landslide. Yeah, so 75%. So Israel threw a ton of money to try to defeat him, and it didn't work.
Yeah, but the state of Kentucky is very complex. It's not necessarily a right-wing state. They've got a lefty governor. So I think it would be very complex. But, if anything, I spent over 10 years on the Hill. And, if anything, Thomas Massie sort of soft-pedaled the influence that AIPAC has. I recall sitting through meetings in the Foreign Affairs Committee among staffers and they would say, don't worry, AIPAC wrote this bill. This is okay. Your bosses won't have a problem with this. So they literally wrote all the legislation when it came to that. And nobody batted an eye when they said that. They actually sighed a sigh of relief. Okay, I can tell my boss this is a green light bill. The AIPAC wrote it. So it's,
I mean, can you imagine? We're all just, it's madness, because can you imagine if we heard, oh, the Chinese Communist Party wrote this bill. It's okay. Here, sign this. Or,
Russia wrote this.
Russia wrote this. Putin or Kim Jong-un wrote this. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I mean, we're just accepting bills written by a foreign government. I mean, this is madness.
It is, absolutely. But I do think there's a backlash. I mean, look how radical it was when Pat Buchanan said however many years ago that Congress is Israel-occupied territory. I mean, he was drummed out of polite society for quite some time. Now that seems kind of passé. You could just put it on a bumper sticker. No big deal.
Right.
So times are changing, and they should realize that.
Look where we are.
Yeah, I mean, there's much more awareness about it now. I mean, there's still people that have their lines drawn in the sand, and no matter what you say about it, they're going to be, they're ideologues about it. But we have no dog in this hunt. We just care about America, and we want to put America first. And so we're gonna call attention to it here. Anyway.
Well, I like your glass half full perspective today. Thank you so much for joining us.
He's a positive guy.
Yeah, I was in the glass half empty, so I needed your influence today. Our guest today has been Daniel McAdams. He's the co-host of the Ron Paul Liberty Report. Fantastic podcast for optimism, but realism. All of the above. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you so much. Take care.